Okay, everyone, welcome to the next episode of the Prop Tech Genius Show. And the local genius I have today is Susan Gerock. Gerock. Ah, man,
Gerock.
Gerock. I do this all the time. Don't feel bad. I like spend all this time chatting with you before the show, and then I don't even get like how do you pronounce your name? Like I did
That
that.
is okay.
Okay.
It's my husband's name, and it has been pronounced every way you can imagine
Oh yeah.
and spelled every way you can imagine. So
Oh
I've
yeah.
always said we answer to any.
Well, you should see my last name. I'm Amy Palvido. You should see what people do to me.
I can imagine.
That's too funny. All right. Well, I'm so excited to have another multifamily woman in the house. This is going to be so awesome. And we're going to talk through all sorts of different stuff, but kind of like what you're seeing in innovation in real estate and what your like challenges you're facing and any insights you can see. It's great to have someone who's because y'all have a REIT and you have large footprints and it's really, really cool. So this will be great, but I'm not going to introduce you. You can introduce yourself. So take it away, Susan.
Absolutely. So I am Susan Gerock. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Elm Communities. I actually just passed 8 years with the company. Anybody that knows a little bit about Elm knows that we were originally known as Washington REIT or Wash REIT. We were a diversified REIT. We owned office, retail, and multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
And in June of 2021, we told the world we were selling office and retail and going to become a pure multifamily REIT. This was a really, really big deal for us, mainly because we had always been focused in the DC area, and we were telling the world we are going to expand beyond DC.
Wow.
And we had owned our multifamily communities, but we had third parties managing them. And we also told the world we're bringing management of that in house.
Ah,
So the company's my life, have changed dramatically
yeah.
over that 3 year period.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely for the better. It's been really, really exciting to be part of the transformation the company has been through, to be a leader in that transformation, and to be part of a business to consumer organization. I think really when you think about all the interesting things that you can do in technology and all the possibility, that's that's where the secret sauce is. And I'm really, really enjoying the way that my job has changed.
Oh, I bet. I mean, you're leading the change because it's all technology driven. You went from asset managing to now you're property managing and
Yes.
learning all the different systems that the property managers have to go through and try to muddle through in their day and the 16 to 20 logins they have to do to live their lives. And like, oh man, that's insane. That's a huge transformation. Do you still feel like you got it under your belt or you're still figuring it out? I mean, that was 3 years ago.
One of the things I'll say is the major transformation we finished last summer. So we brought our communities on in waves. We knew better than to try to bring everything on at one time. That would have been a disaster. Um, but we brought on in a series of waves,
Uh-huh.
and we finished that in July of last year.
Okay.
And we are not a company to sit back and say, "Oh well, done." Now we can hang out. We immediately said, "Now that we have the operations in house, let's really focus on improving them." And we've been doing pretty much since October of last year. We've been doing a lot of pilots of some new programs that can really streamline some of our operations, and it's been extremely, extremely beneficial and exciting. You were talking about just how much technology is out there and what's happening from an innovation standpoint. I tell everybody, I think multifamily is the place to be. There
Mhm.
are so many people out there coming up with great solutions for our industry. And I feel like our industry for a long time really was a laggard and has honestly leapfrogged just about every other type of real estate at this point in the ways that we can use technology to connect with our potential residents, our current residents,
Yep.
make things better for our community teams. There's so much opportunity there that we can use to make things easier for everybody.
Right. I think it's shifted from, I mean, there was obviously the word changes, right? They went from tenant to resident. And the vernacular changed. But I really think what happened in multifamily was you had the COVID revolution and then you have the AI revolution. And now I think what's happening is that people are really, really, really focusing on your experience as a consumer of your product, right? It went from, oh yeah, we just need to lease it. And oh, by the way, they got to come to us because there's no other place for them to live. And of course, like whatever. And we can be piss poor about how like we're giving them a place to live, like whatever. Right. But now it's like, no, we really, really want you to have the best experience. And that includes your technology. Like, it's like, because I remember back in the day, especially during COVID, it was like, all these front end solutions. The first thing around prop tech was chasing was the money because it was easy to justify on these revenue like Knock and all these other people that were helping you on the revenue lead generation side. But then what they were doing was they were setting up a false expectation because it was really, really cool to lease an apartment. And then when you got into the apartment, you had to go like walk in and hand a piece of paper for a work order, or you had to call somebody that would not answer the phone because something broke. I
Mhm.
was like, and so now it's really like we have to make this seamless experience for them because you set that expectation up front. It's like, hey, you can virtually tour, you can do this, you can do that, you can do all these great things. And then when you get in there, they expect the same things, right? It's really kind of interesting to see where it's going for sure. For
Well,
sure.
I've said, and my husband has commented, it's like Amazon. He made the comment one day. He's like, it's almost too easy. Like
Right.
it's just too easy. It's just really click, click, and you're done. And I have said one of the things I love is if I'm sitting at the dentist's office and I think to myself, oh, I really need to reorder whatever that is from Amazon. I can go to the app and it truly is 2 clicks
Mm,
and I've set up a delivery for the
yeah.
next day or later in the week. And ideally, that's what we want our residents' experience to be with us, that it is so simple that they can do what they need to do from wherever they happen to be. And it's very quick, it's very fast, and they know they're going to get the result that they want. And so, I always call it sort of the Amazon experience
Right.
because, however you feel about Amazon, they have truly perfected that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like you can order something and it's there later the afternoon, like, and a drone dropped it off. Like, oh my God. Nobody had to knock on the door and then, you're working from home is going, da, da, da. Like no one does that because the drone just goes, dink, here you go, and leaves. It's great. you know,
I
it's
haven't
great.
had a drone delivery, I have to tell you, but I saw that they're expanding somewhere in Texas, I think.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's really good. Yeah, Dallas has it, so I'm jealous of all my Dallas friends. That's how I know that Austin doesn't have it yet, but Dallas has it, and yeah, and it's amazing. A couple hours and it's there. So it's like not even like you think about it in the shower, and then later after you get done with whatever, oh yeah, I really wanted that, and then you go outside and it's there, and it's like amazing. I have to leave my house and go to the store. It's just so cool. Yeah,
It's wild.
it
It's
is very
wild. Who
cool.
would have ever thought?
I
Like
know.
it's just amazing.
And I think the biggest thing that, well, you can tell me what you're seeing, but the experience part was we're reframing our stuff around the resident experience. I think a lot of that has to do with all the new visualization technologies that are coming out, right? But sometimes the visualization techniques, well, like, okay, CoStar Matterport, y'all, it happened. Like if you didn't know, if you're under a rock, it happened. But I think even Matterport's technology is a little old. And I think there's newer and newer technology coming out to where it's true, because sometimes Matterport's technology wasn't really representative. You didn't get a good idea if you're doing a virtual tour of what it really like felt like, or like how could I put my furniture there? Will my couch fit? Will my TV fit? Like, is it, where can I, like, how can I really live in this space? Right. And I think there's better and better visualization technology coming out now. And I think that that lends itself to, because I remember back in the day, someone actually like rented an apartment for me and they never even looked at it. And I was like, okay, they're going to show up here and they're not going to want it. Like I just told my people, I'm like, they've never seen it. Yes, I know it's a 6 month lease or whatever, but they didn't look the neighborhood. This is like 2014, but they were a contract person and they didn't care. They just wanted a place to live. And I'm like, one, okay, you've seen pictures. Yes, you saw pictures, but I didn't, you didn't look at the neighborhood. This is probably maybe going to be, there was a good chance that they were not going to stay. Right. I mean, it's like you don't have enough information. Yes, I know you're just trying to find a place to live, but now we can do all of that. They can see the neighborhood. They can see what it looks like. They can see how it feels, and they can see you have good. They're very, very educated when they walk in the door. And I think it's cool to see all that new technology coming out. Are y'all trying to look at, are y'all doing that already on the forefront of that, a lot of that stuff?
We sure are. We definitely are. And that is something that I think is really impactful because people now want to do a lot of research, even before they engage with you in a lot of cases. So they want to be able to look at the floor plans, but then also see a visual representation of, what does it look like? And if you can actually create that for that particular unit,
Mm-hmm.
that really gives them a good feeling of, oh, what's the view out the window? What's it like walking in, and where's the bathroom, where's the kitchen, how are things laid out? It does make a really big difference as far as giving people that perspective. I mean, talking about the educated consumer, reviews are a very big deal. Everyone reads reviews now,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many different review sites as well.
Yeah.
Um, and you want to make sure that you're making a great impression on potential residents and on your residents, because um, everybody is willing to write a review, and you want those to be as positive as possible.
Right. Yeah. Old property manager. I remember those negative reviews you would get. And you'd be like, going, you don't even live here. Like, shut your face. Like, seriously, nice try. Nice try. Good try. Yeah. No, I'm not going to engage with you. And then be like, this tenant doesn't live here. Do you remember back in the days, you'd have to have someone that's all their job was to look at the reviews and respond to the reviews. Now AI can do a lot of that stuff, which is so nice, all the crazy things. Have you started looking at helping your tenants virtually stage the units yet? Have you done any of that?
We have not, although I have talked to some software providers that do that.
Yeah.
And I know there are a couple of options in the marketplace today.
Mhm.
Um, One of the options, I believe, even allows the resident, if they, for example, like put a couch here or a table here, that they could actually then go buy that
Yeah.
item.
Yeah.
So, you're really seeing some very sophisticated offerings out there with regard to, what they can do with the space, because there are those people
Hmm.
that when they move, they just sell everything they have and they start over.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
and I mean, that sort of capability, I think, is really, really nice for that renter that is looking for that kind of option.
I think anybody who goes through the moving experience more than once hates it. And like, no joke, is like, I'd rather just sell everything and start over. Like, oh my gosh. And then not only that, I would just wanted to be there when I show up. Like, I think that's
Yes.
why Airbnb became so popular, because it was a furnished unit. You didn't have to think about it. And you just showed up and you brought your clothes and your bathroom stuff and you moved in. I mean, it was fabulous, right? I'm just like, I'm so there. I've moved too many times and I'm like, this is like so 80s. Like, oh my gosh, let's not do this anymore. Ah, but yes, I no, no, I'm with you. Are you seeing that your tenants are staying longer in your leases? Like I know back in the old days when we were multifamily, people like the average tenancy was maybe 1 to 2 years, but you had your outlier that's been there for 20 years, right? Or whatever. But are people staying longer in the units overall? Have you seen
For the most part, we have been really focused on
that?
renewals in our
Yeah.
portfolio, and we have seen good renewal records pretty much across the entire portfolio.
Hmm.
You are exactly right. I mean, we have. some of these communities we have owned for a very, very long time, and we have people that have lived there for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And, each, as you know, each community has its own personality.
Hmm.
And, it's really fascinating. One of the things that we have been doing this year in my IT team is each week we take a community, one of our communities, and we do a deep dive on that community.
Wow.
We talk about, okay, what is all of the technology we have at that community, both the IT and the OT, the operational technology. We talk about really, what kind of issues do they have? What kind of help desk tickets are coming in? Are there things that are happening in this community that we really need to focus on?
Hmm.
We talk about uh, projects that we would like to do there from a technology standpoint.
Hmm.
We talk about reviews. So we look at the reviews for the last year for the community. And we look at our BI dashboard. And it shows us everything from, what generations live in the community
Right.
to, their tenure, what the average income is, what the average rent is.
Hmm.
Uh, and so we really get a view of the community. And as part of that, we look at renewals, and we look at those communities that have a lot of renewal, and then those communities maybe where they're a lot more transient. And normally you can point at, oh, well, this is a community that tends to have a lot of Gen Z and millennial renters. They tend to move a lot more often. It's a newer community. Um, there's just a lot more turnover. Then maybe we have a community which leans much heavier Gen X
Hmm.
and Boomer that have been there for a while. That it's a bit more suburban, and they may have a much higher renewal rate, just really based on
Yeah.
personality of that community.
Yeah. So yeah, no, for sure. You see I remember there was like a real, like 2021 especially, there was this, the apartment complex really had two communities in. You had the baby boomers and the older folks, and you had the really young families and young people. And there was the missing middle, but it was these two generations that were living in the same community a lot of the times. That was a lot that happened kind of all over the place. And it was interesting to see what some of the apartment communities would do to kind of, you know, help those generations, collaborate. So you didn't have them segregated out, like, you know what I mean? Like you would just have, like, how can we help this community interact more? Because it's all about building community now. It's really kind of interesting. But I would say the other thing too is like everybody would wonder, well, why would this one community be outperforming this other community? And a lot of times it had to do with the staff that was at that
Oh, yeah.
community, right? All the time. Well, as we look at how we staff our properties, do you look at how technology can kind of take the place, not take the place of, but create that same kind of environment and not just be so dependent on one person that was just phenomenal person that was your connector everybody loved and they all wanted to be there because Margie was there and Margie was the manager and she took care of you and she did all these other great things. Well, you can't have Margie all the time, y'all. I mean, you just can't. So, how are you looking at that? How do we use technology in a way to kind of create that feel without being so dependent on one person? Have you looked at that?
Definitely look at that. The other thing that we are using, especially data,
Yeah.
is to understand what a community really needs. I think one of the things in the multifamily industry is um, we get very, not, I'm trying to even think of the right word. We're very structured in, we need a community manager and we need a service manager and we need a service tech and here's what they do. And it's not always one size fits all.
Right.
And so, one of the things that we have really been looking at from a data standpoint is, let's look at work orders, for example.
Hmm.
What are the work orders that are coming in this community or this pod of communities? And are we advertising for the right kind of skill set? Let's not be advertising for someone with an HVAC background if we don't have a lot of HVAC issues, but we have a lot of electrical issues. So it's really saying, okay, what is it that we need so that we really differentiate ourselves from everybody else and we get the skill sets we truly need to serve that community better. And so we're trying to use data for things like that. We're trying to understand even things like someone said to me recently, we all love to get a package. Like we do. Like, it's always exciting when you
Yeah.
get a
Yes.
package. And we've been doing a lot of analysis, even of the data that comes from our package lockers and looking at things like what time of day are packages delivered, what kind of packages are coming, how long is it taking people to pick them up. Um, what's really trying to understand that and see, are there things we need to change about how we handle people's packages?
Mhm.
And that is one of those really, that one of those things that may be a really small slice of the of someone's day, but it's a big deal to your resident.
Yeah.
And so really figuring out, how do we improve that experience and make that better for them? So really looking at a lot of data that comes from our technology to improve that resident experience.
Yeah, there's some that could be temperature sensitive, right? Like so warm or cold, right?
Yes.
Say somebody got flowers, you'd want to keep that cool, or whatever. If somebody got, whatever they got in the mail, maybe it was Hello Fresh package, and
Yes.
it only last a little while. So even if, I had that happen to me where someone stuck it by my front door and I didn't know it was coming, it was my Hello Fresh day and it sat out in the sun for like freaking 6 hours, right? So I had to throw all that food out. But
Oh,
yeah, it's bad. So, it could be even that, or it's, they get food deliveries, they get all these things, or even the warm side where they get, my pizza just made it here and, I'm not down there to get it. So yeah, it could be really, really, who had that idea, by the way, I had to digress. I do this where I squirrel every once in a while. Elon Musk was at a conference back, like, I don't know, 14 years ago. And he was talking about how, and I hate to give credit to the guy because, he's just Elon Musk, whatever. But he said that at a conference in San Francisco. He goes, in the future, there will be places by somebody's apartment where there'll be warm or cold storage. Like the person delivers it in a box and they can pick warm or cold. And then that person would just notify them. The box would just notify them the deliveries arrived, and then the person could just go get it, and it'd be the same box. And I was like, okay, but when he went on to like make Tesla cars, but whatever. But I was just like, I'm like, huh, interesting. Okay, all right, Elon, maybe you're a little smart. Maybe you are. Maybe we'll get there. I might give you credit every once in a while. All right, okay. Yeah, I was like, I heard that like, I don't know, 6 years ago. I was like, oh, that's crazy town. That is so,
that's interesting. I had not heard that he had said anything like
I
that.
know. Isn't that weird? I was like,
It is very weird.
maybe he's insightful every once in a while, but all right, no, 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 it's fine. He's in Austin. I'm like, dude, this is still my town. I've been here for 25 years. You did not take it over. I'm just saying out loud. Sorry, it's my town. No, it's too funny. It's too funny for sure. So what kind of other things are you looking at? Like what is the data? Obviously, that's which speaks to me because we're a data aggregator, so I love that. But what else are you like taking a look at as far as trying to get insights from? Just curious.
We really certainly, I think anybody likes to understand um, where their leads are coming from. So there is a tremendous amount. We could probably spend an entire session on your podcast talking about our COO calls it MarTech, marketing technology. There is a ton of it out there to really understand your potential resident, how they find you, what are the most effective ways presenting yourself online, what's working, what's not. And really looking into that data and understanding that has been very, very helpful to us as well. We have a great head of marketing, just joined us earlier this year, and she has really pulled us forward dramatically in those areas. So I think really being able to take data to make good decisions is probably one of the most powerful things that we found is just really understanding that resident, understanding that potential resident, understanding what matters, what's important, and going back to what I said earlier, making sure that we have staffed the community with the right skill sets, the right people, providing the right services, just giving folks that Amazon experience of simplicity in dealing.
And then being able to monitor as it changes, right? Because communities evolve over time, and so if you're not
Exactly.
plugged in all the time and you kind of notice trends, right, you have to kind of do that because you
You
might be
really do.
offering the wrong amenities. And those, oh, let's not even get talk about, I'm not gonna talk about amenities. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, we go, oh, just like it just changes all the time. You spend all this money to put in a top golf station and then nobody uses it because they didn't really want it, right? And so preferences change all the time. And okay, anyway, but
I
there's
will tell you one of my favorite stories is a few years ago. We had bought a community, and it was, when I say it was an older community, it was probably built in the 80s. Um, and back then racquetball was like hot. Like I remember being in college and playing racquetball at college, and it was a big deal. So we had racquetball courts at this community.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, nobody used them. I mean, because you never hear of anybody. I mean, I guess people still play racquetball, but I mean, I never hear of anybody talking about it. When we did a refresh of that community's clubhouse and other amenity spaces, we turned those racquetball courts into an indoor basketball court
You know what?
that gets used all the time.
Yeah,
Whereas that was just dead, unused
right.
space that, was not appealing, that really just showed the age of the community. Now we've turned it into an amenity that people really like and use. And I love it when we're able to do things like that. And really stay with the times. That's what people are looking for. Having outdoor patios with televisions and things like that and good Wi-Fi, those are things that people enjoy and are going to be attractive to them, especially if you live in a small apartment and you feel like your community as a whole needs to be like sort of part of your living room in
Right,
in a way, is
right.
making all of those common spaces that people can really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it's I remember way back in the day when I was a property manager and I was facing that dichotomy with the older and the younger. We put out one of my staff had this great idea. It was like, let's just put out picnic tables everywhere and then go put fresh coffee there. Just do it. And I was like, that is a great idea. And so she would just go get the coffee, like the whatever Dunkin', the
Yeah, the
and the
little jug sort of.
jugs, and
Yeah.
she would on it was coffee Fridays, and she would go out there and put coffee, and then it created this little community feel. It was so cool, and it was just the cheapest expense. It was a think of coffee, like who cares? And we had the picnic tables everywhere, but we kind of just put them together in one, and we just moved them. We already had them. We didn't have to do anything. We put them in like one area, and it was coffee Fridays. And it was the coolest thing ever. And then you could see that, you get so, warm fuzzies inside when you see the community come together because that's renewal, renewal, renewal. It's a great, it's fabulous. No, no, no. It was great. It was a great idea just to get them together. And then it ended up being there was like this one group of old ladies that sat in this one table and it became their table. Like, don't mess with their table. Like it was
Oh no, you never ever
no.
mess with the tape.
No, you don't. And they owned that table and everybody kind of knew. It was so cool to watch. I was just like, this is so awesome. This is so, so cool when you see that connection happen. I mean, we are apartment communities. We basically have this huge petri dish of how can we create community here. Like we can try experiments and we can do this and we can do that, and let's see how we can create this, and what can we do, because you're the epicenter of somebody's life and you can do really, really cool things. I mean, it's just, yeah, yeah, no, it was a great coffee Fridays. It was awesome.
I like that.
Yeah, it was awesome for sure. And it was great seeing, and you didn't even do anything. We just they saw us moving the picnic tables and they saw us put out the coffee and we left. That was it. And then we announced that was Coffee Fridays, and then that's all we did. And every day we put this in a little, it was so
That's very cool.
yeah, yeah, it is very cool. That's awesome. So let's talk about AI a little bit. I know that there's some new innovations around. I like the one where, it helps you. It's understands your email and your phone calls to know, like, is it a lead or not a lead? That's so it's taking out those mundane tasks of somebody's day. Are you integrating AI in some of your things?
We definitely are. And I think our focus is always on making sure we've set it up so that we're clear on what the AI does, but we're also clear on that the timing of the handoff to a human
Yes.
and what that looks like,
Uh,
and to ensure that the human is not duplicating the efforts of the AI. And
yeah.
I think that is a really, really important piece of it, because I think AI can do a lot for you if you have given it the right information and the right training. But there's always going to be, where do we make sure that we have that seamless handoff? And I think that's been our big focus as we have evaluated and piloted and implemented different solutions, is making sure that we understand that and that we're clear on it and that our teams are clear on it. Because there's nothing worse than if you are a prospective resident and maybe you're chatting with, what you may or may not know is an AI chatbot about the community, setting up your tour. And then if AI is following up with you and a human is following up with you, it can get to the point where
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm sick of this place. I'm not, they're bugging me to death. I don't want to deal with this. And they're a lost lead. Whereas if you had that clear handoff, it's like, okay, AI, stop, human takes over. Or hey, AI is doing a great job. This person is, blowing along through the pipeline. Leave it alone until we, really need to get hands on. I think that's been the biggest challenge, is for people to really know what to expect and how to best manage it.
But isn't that like a trust issue and a fear issue? Isn't it like, I trust that the AI is really handling this the way I want to handle it? And oh, is it going to take my job?
Oh, I'm sure, absolutely. I think there's definitely some of that, but I think if it's implemented correctly,
Right.
that you can work around that and you can show people, hey, this actually gives you power to do so much more as a human being, because AI is doing all of the very boring, rote, annoying things that you don't want to have to do or have to remember to.
Right. Right. No one wants to sift through emails to figure out if there's a lead and then kick yourself because it happened. You got that email 3 days ago. Like no one
Yes.
wants to do that. Like, come on, people. Like, but then they'll say that. They'll say, oh no, no, I gotta do that. And like, no, you don't, crazy person. You do not want to do that. I know you're scared, but you really, really, really don't want to do that.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's really, some of it is just the follow-up, and remembering. I don't know about you, but like I have to schedule things to remind myself to follow up on things. And um, what happens if something happens that day and you don't do your follow-ups? And then there's more follow-ups the next, like, you
Mhm.
know,
Awesome.
time is money.
Mhm.
And you really, if you forget to follow up and then you forget another day and another day, like your 3-day example, well, that prospect may have moved on at
Yeah.
that point. Whereas if AI is doing those regular follow-ups, then you've got that communication loop
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, we had a crisis at the community this morning. I didn't get to follow up. that's getting done for
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. I can remember responding on Facebook Marketplace. That was back in the day. Facebook Marketplace was the hottest place to rent an apartment. And I was like, 2 in the morning having to respond to people. I was like, why can't there be something to do this for me? Like, why am I so attached to Facebook Marketplace trying to rent my units? And it was the same questions over and over. Do you have a 1 bedroom available? It was like, I just wanted to have a clip to go respond, respond. I mean,
you. Yes.
because at the end of the day, yes, that's a precious lead. It's somebody just trying to find the information. So let's just let the chatbot or AI handle all of that stuff, and you can go to sleep at 2 a.m. Like, and they want it when they want it. I mean, they don't want it next day. They don't want it's like it's not fast food generation anymore. It's like hyper speed fast food generate. I mean, we want it now. We want to know what it is, and we want to move on with our lives, and we want the information now, now, now. If we can't get it on your website, or we can't get an answer, then we move on and find somebody else who can give us the information. It's like that's how it is today.
And I think too, people, we find that many of our residents work different shifts. And what is convenient time for them to be doing something may not be the time that our office is open or that we're staffed. And so having something that can help no matter what time of day or night it is, that is convenient for them and their schedule,
Yep.
is really what we're after.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's great to do to have the before the virtual tours. I was like, I worked in a community where it was contract workers, and it's oil and refineries, and they're working 24/7. So what I did? I just trusted them that they weren't going to ruin the apartment. And I said, here's the code to the door. Come to the community. I know it's at night. Well, you'll get a good perspective because this is when you're coming home. You'll see how well lit it is. You'll see how safe it is. Here's the code to the door. Go look at the unit, and then call me the next day or text me the next day and let me know if you like it or not. Right. I mean, so no way, I didn't have to have staff there. I just gave them the code to the door. And and we actually put codes on the door because the keys are the bane of my existence. Oh my God, I hated keys. That's all we were, was like a key shop. That's all we ended up being, with half the time was a damn key shop. I'm like, it was horrible. But yeah, but I mean, you have that, so true. Like, so now you have virtual touring and you have all these other great things, and you don't have to have somebody be there to help leasing. I mean, do you think that the leasing agent is dead? Do you think it through virtual touring and all these other great things, you're just not going to need a leasing agent anymore? Um,
Think so. I really think there is still value for people in a human touch, but
mhm.
I think giving people the flexibility as to how they want to experience your apartment complex, how they want to experience the space, I think that is a positive too, and I think that was something that before you never had. I mean, no matter what your personality, how you like to think about things, review things, you always had somebody with you. And I think this really gives a lot of flexibility both to the leasing agent and to the prospect. I don't think it's dead at all. I just think it changes how they operate.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, but that leasing agent can then become, I don't know. I tried this at one community where it was like, you manage the whole experience from the tenant to the day they move in. So you're this person. So it's like the front end person. And then from the day they move in, it hands off to this other person, and they just become tenant relations. So you're marketing and prospecting them to here. Once the lease is signed, you hand it over, and then this person picks them up. And so I did that and that seemed to work really well, because this person is managing managing the make readies, they're managing the front end persons, they're managing the whole thing. Is the apartment ready? Can we lease it? So you can add more tasks instead of just
Absolutely.
a leasing agent, right? So it's
Yeah.
good. You can flatten your organization out a little bit, but that's okay. It just gives me more skill sets for people to learn, different challenges for them to learn, all those great things. So the technology that you're looking at, or that you're, broad strokes, like what cool things are you looking at, as far as, is it connectivity? Is it more different ways to create a different experience? What are you looking at differently, that you haven't implemented today? I'm just curious.
We've been piloting a number of different programs that we're really excited and have been rolling out across our communities, really um, focused really since this month and moving into the summertime. I would say, a lot of those, what I would call day-to-day type experiences, is where we've had a lot of our focus. So we've had a lot of focus on things like making sure that we are engaging with our residents, that we do a more thorough job on following up on work orders and work order completion, that we're able to get them answers more quickly to questions that they have, focusing on things like rent reminders and collections and renewals and all those things that are more your day-to-day type activities. I think really the next big step is going to be on that leasing front, and really focusing on what are the things that we can do to really enhance that experience for the prospect.
Yeah.
When you talk about things like the self-guided tours, making that available, making sure that we have the right technology partner, but also, that we have the right wayfinding, both within the technology and in the community as well, because different communities, let's say, the experience is very different from an urban high rise to a suburban garden. And
Right.
if you were, trying to show somebody how to get around I'm going to make this up, like a 25-acre community,
Right.
there's a lot of information they need, or, if they get lost, they're just going to say, I don't have time for this,
Yes.
and move on. So there's a lot of thought that has to go into it
Mhm.
when you're putting something like this in place. And, you were talking about having them the the code, having access control. We've actually rolled out across almost all our communities smart home technology. So that's in place.
Great.
So, the residents have that ability to use, smart locks, smart lighting, smart thermostats, water leak detection. We have that on our vacant units as well that we're showing.
Yep.
So really being able to take advantage of that, along with access control and the right self-guided touring software, I think is going to be key for us. And that is something that we're really looking at for later this year into 2025.
Yeah, it's like the half the battle is just getting them to the unit, right? Like I just want to follow something on my phone like Pokemon Go, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
go like this and I'm gonna walk around. Oh, I'm here. Okay, great. It's like how do I how do I get to my unit? I don't know where it is. It's so confusing. I know it's crazy, Tom. No, but that's a part of the experience too. So thinking about from the moment they drive onto your property, what is it like? Right?
Yes.
Scanning it from just inside the unit touring to it's now the property, right? What do they see? I mean, you do that all the time. That's why we stick flags at the road, right? I mean, it's like you try to drive them in, but it's more that it's or track them in, but it's really thinking about okay, from the gate to here to here
Yes.
to this step and make it super easy for them to find so they can then obviously if you want to be smart about it you take them by the pool and you take them by all the amenities and you do all this other stuff. Oh yeah, your building's over here. We'll get there. And you could have gone here, but no, we're going to walk around and go over here. Oh, here's your apartment. you know, so they can see all the fancy things. It's great. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. I think, yeah, it goes back to tenant experience and how do we make it easy from beginning to end, right? And all those great things. I also am so excited. I don't know what you think, but I think AI is so cool. Obviously, it's cool, but my dad is 81 years old and he still works and he's still active. I think the coolest thing about AI is it's going to reconnect that generation. So now they can just talk to their phone going, hey, I need to do this. And it does it. And they don't have to know the codes. They don't have to type. Oh gosh, see, my dad type is like horrible. But it does. It connects that generation back because they can now use AI to do really cool things. And all you do is talk to it, right? And say, hey, I need to submit a work order, or hey, I need to do this, or hey, this, or hey, that. And now they can feel connected again and they don't feel lost. They're like this the lost, tribe of whatever, because they're so disconnected from technology and the world almost. I mean, my dad can text. It's great. I got him to text, right? But he still calls me every once. Amy, how do I attach this to an email? I'm like his tech support. How do I attach this to an email? But I think that is like one of the coolest thing about AI is like, and in your communities, you'll have the ability to really, really reconnect that generation, which is, I think, awesome for sure. I think it's cool. So, so good. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. I've had so much fun. This has been so good. Thank you so much for coming on my show. This is
Oh,
so,
it's been my pleasure. And like you said, it's not every day I get called a genius. So
you
I'm
know,
like, I'm
see?
gonna be floating on that for the rest of the day, I can tell you.
Well, you are the genius for today. See, there you go. That's how it goes. Well, if somebody would like to get a hold of you and you're willing to let them get a hold of you, how would they do that?
You know, the best thing is reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
I'm easy to find. Gerock, Gerock. And I love to connect with people in the industry, love to talk to new vendors and learn about your products. And really, this is such a great industry to be in. And I love multifamily and am excited to be part of it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, great. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me.